The movie begins with a young woman named Sara Price. One day she gets a shocking phone call from the Japanese police. They tell her that her twin sister Jess is most likely dead. Jess has been missing for more than 2 days, and the last place she was seen was near the infamous Aokigahara Forest. Located at the base of Mount Fuji, Aokigahara is known as one of the darkest and most haunted forests in the world. For years, it has become a tragic destination where countless people have gone to take their own lives. Hearing this devastating news, Sara wastes no time and immediately decides to fly to Japan. Her fiancé, Rob, desperately tries to stop her. He reminds Sara that Jess has disappeared before and always managed to come back, so there's no reason to risk her own life chasing another mystery. But Sara refuses to give up on her sister. Ignoring every warning, she boards a plane and heads straight to Japan. After arriving, Sara checks into the same hotel where Jess had been staying. While she's there, she hears terrifying stories about Aokigahara and learns why so many people fear entering the forest. The following morning, Sara visits the school where Jess worked as an English teacher. As soon as she walks into the classroom, the students freeze in fear. Some of them even back away, convinced they've just seen a ghost. A little later, one of the students explains what happened. Since Sara looks exactly like her twin sister, everyone thought Jess had somehow returned from the dead. The students know Jess entered Aokigahara, and no one believes she would ever come back. One of Jess's co-workers then tells Sara the horrifying history of the forest. Centuries ago, during times of famine, families who could no longer care for their elderly or sick relatives would abandon them deep inside these woods, leaving them there to die. Over time, so many people lost their lives in the forest that, according to local legend, their restless souls could never find peace. Now those angry spirits are said to wander endlessly through the trees, waiting for anyone foolish enough to disturb their eternal silence. Despite the chilling story, Sara searches Jess's room for anything that might reveal where she went. After finding nothing useful, she takes a train to the foot of Mount Fuji. There she arrives at a small inn where Jess had stayed during a school field trip. When Sara shows the receptionist a photo of her sister, the woman surprises her by saying that Jess has already been found. Filled with hope, Sara follows her downstairs. But as they descend into the basement, the woman quietly whispers that the spirits screamed throughout the entire night, refusing to let anyone sleep. A moment later, she opens a heavy door, and Sara realizes this isn't a normal room at all. It's a temporary morgue. Trying to stay calm, Sara examines every body. After a tense moment, she finally lets out a sigh of relief. Jess isn't there. As Sara leaves, she asks a young woman named Sakura if anyone can guide her into Aokigahara Forest. Sakura gives her a sad smile before delivering one final warning. She explains that the Yurei, the evil spirits believed to haunt the forest, can sense grief, loneliness, and despair hidden inside a person's heart. Once they find someone carrying that pain, they slowly manipulate them, luring them deeper into the woods until they choose to end their own life. She also gives Sara one final warning. Never leave the main trail. Anyone who wanders off the path becomes an easy target for the dark forces lurking inside the forest. That night, Sara stays at a nearby inn. Later, she heads to a small bar where she meets a friendly journalist named Aiden. He lives in Tokyo and writes travel stories for an Australian magazine. When Aiden hears why Sara has come to this terrifying place, he asks if he can record their conversation. He thinks her story could make a powerful article. He also tells her that he knows a forest ranger named Michi who patrols the area every day and offers to introduce them the following morning. The two spend the evening talking over a couple of beers. The atmosphere is warm, but there's an uneasy tension between them. Sara opens up about her past. She explains that when she and her twin sister Jess were only 6 years old, they were told their parents had been killed by a drunk driver on the way home from the movies. When the accident supposedly happened, Sara, Jess, and their grandmother rushed outside after hearing a loud noise. Sara never actually saw what happened, so she still believes the story she was told. But Jess saw the horrifying truth. There was no drunk driver at all. Their parents had taken their own lives, ending everything together with a gunshot. After sharing such a painful memory, Sara and Aiden head back to their rooms for the night. The next morning, Sara joins Aiden for breakfast, where they meet the ranger, Michi. Both men try to convince her to give up this dangerous search, but Sara refuses. She says she's certain she would somehow know if her sister was truly dead. Michi looks at her seriously and says the greatest danger inside the forest isn't the trees, it's the sadness she's carrying in her heart. According to him, the spirits feed on grief. If Sara lets her emotions take over, they'll invade her mind, crush her will, and slowly drive her into darkness. Soon the three of them enter the infamous forest. As they move deeper inside, Michi tells them to watch every single step. He warns them that whatever terrifying things they see may not be real. The forest's dark energy can create powerful hallucinations, making people see exactly what they fear the most. After walking for a while, Sara notices a tent in the distance and asks who it belongs to. Michi explains that many people who come here planning to end their lives aren't completely sure of their decision. They set up tents and spend time thinking before making their final choice. A little farther ahead, the group discovers the body of a man hanging from a tree. Without saying much, Michi carefully takes the body down and marks the location on his map so the other rangers can return later and recover the remains. As evening approaches, they come across another tent. The moment Sara sees it, she freezes. She insists the belongings hanging outside belong to Jess. Michi suggests leaving a note and coming back the next morning, but Sara refuses. She says she's staying right there until her sister returns. Knowing it's far too dangerous to leave her alone in the forest, Aiden decides to stay with her through the night. Later, as they sit beside a small campfire, Sara reveals something heartbreaking. She tells Aiden that Jess had tried to take her own life several times by overdosing on sleeping pills. Every single time, Sara managed to save her. But this time, she isn't sure she'll get another chance. Sitting alone in the middle of the forest, Sara convinces herself that her sister will show up any minute and everything will go back to normal. But that night, strange rustling noises echoed through the woods. Startled, she steps out of her tent and comes face to face with a terrified schoolgirl. Sara tries to calm her down, and the girl introduces herself as Hoshiko. She claims that she knows Miss Jess. Then, with fear in her eyes, Hoshiko gives Sara a chilling warning: whatever happens, don't trust Aiden. As soon as Hoshiko hears someone calling out in the distance, she suddenly panics and disappears into the pitch-black forest, leaving Sara completely confused. The next morning, Sara and Aiden leave a note behind at the campsite and decide to keep searching the forest on their own. After hours of wandering through the dense woods, they realize they've completely lost their way. But Hoshiko's warning keeps replaying in Sara's mind. Growing suspicious, she asks Aiden to show her his phone. He hesitates at first, but eventually hands it over. The moment Sara sees a photo of her sister Jess on the screen, she freezes in shock. Convinced that Aiden tricked her into coming to this cursed forest, she throws the phone away and runs as fast as she can. Now completely alone, Sara starts hearing eerie whispers all around her. The voices keep telling her to turn around. She fights the urge and keeps moving forward, refusing to look back. But when she hears something breathing right behind her, she can't resist anymore. The second Sara turns around, she comes face to face with a horrifying corpse. Terrified, she screams and sprints away without looking where she's going. Suddenly, the ground gives way beneath her, and she crashes into a dark, damp underground cave. Back at the campsite, Michi returns and finds the tent empty. Panic immediately sets in. Realizing the two young Americans are missing, he rushes to contact the police and forest rangers, organizing a massive search operation. Overcome with guilt for leaving them alone, Michi desperately hopes they're still alive. Meanwhile, Sara slowly regains consciousness inside the cave. As she carefully makes her way through the darkness, she unexpectedly runs into Hoshiko again. Hoshiko calmly tells her that she knows exactly where Jess is. Although something feels terribly wrong, Sara has no choice but to follow her. After walking only a short distance, Sara notices something horrifying. The figure leading her isn't human at all. It's a ghost. Horrified, she turns and runs in the opposite direction. As she races through the cave, terrifying spirits appear in every corner, closing in on her from the darkness. Finally, she reaches the hole she fell through and screams at the top of her lungs for help. Her cries echo through the forest above. Aiden hears her voice, rushes to the spot where she disappeared, and immediately starts searching for a rope to pull her out. Panicking, Sara desperately tries to calm herself down. As she looks around, she notices an old camera from her childhood. Curious, she starts flipping through the photos. One by one, the pictures reveal the horrifying truth. Her parents didn't die by accident. They had taken their own lives. Then as she keeps scrolling, one final image appears. A terrifying evil spirit is standing right behind them. Horrified, Sara throws the camera away. Just then, Aiden returns with a rope and pulls her to safety. At first, Sara doesn't trust him at all, but after realizing that Hoshiko's ghost was actually real, she decides they have no choice but to work together if they want to escape the forest. As night falls, they discover an abandoned hunting cabin and decide to stay there until morning. While searching the old cabin, Sara comes across a handwritten note. The message is from Jess. In it, her sister claims that Aiden kidnapped her and is keeping her locked in the basement against her will. Sara waits for the perfect opportunity. Then, overcome with rage, she suddenly attacks Aiden. A violent struggle breaks out, and she drives a knife straight into his heart. Moments later, she opens the basement door, only to freeze in shock. She sees Jess, and at the same time relives the horrifying moment from her childhood when her parents died. That's when the truth hits her. The photo on Aiden's phone and the note she found were never real. They were nothing more than cruel hallucinations created by the cursed forest. Suddenly, her father's lifeless body comes back to life and lunges at Sara, grabbing her arm with terrifying strength. Screaming for Jess to run, Sara desperately struggles to break free. In complete panic, she hacks at the ghost's fingers until she finally escapes. She rushes outside and spots Jess running through the woods. Sara chases after her, but Jess keeps screaming for help as she disappears deeper into the forest. At that exact moment, Rob and the search team finally find Jess. Jess is so terrified that she thinks it's just another illusion created by the forest. But when she realizes these are real people, she breaks down in tears of relief. She tells them she's been lost in the forest for days and believes she would never make it out alive. The rescuers then inform her that Sara is still somewhere inside the forest searching for her. Jess immediately wants to go back, but Rob convinces her that entering the forest at night would only put more lives in danger. They have to wait until sunrise. At the same time, Sara finally discovers the horrifying truth. The ghost's fingers she thought she was cutting were actually her own wrists. She isn't outside at all. In reality, she's sitting alone in the basement of the abandoned cabin, bleeding to death. The forest has finally claimed another victim. Her soul is trapped there forever, destined to wander the woods as another restless ghost. Meanwhile, as Jess reaches the rescue vehicle, she quietly whispers that she can no longer feel her sister's presence, and that can only mean one thing. Sara is gone. Unlike Jess, she couldn't resist the Yurai's influence. She surrendered to the evil spirit and paid for it with her life. And with that heartbreaking twist, the movie comes to an end. Subscribe to this channel for more stories like this.